What's up, guys? Welcome back once again for more clever tips. Today we'll be going through these following topics. And I just want to say really quick how much I appreciate the support that you guys are giving me. The comment section is great. I read every single one of them, and I usually have time to respond to most. So if you like the tips, keep that up. Keep hitting that like button, and that will help YouTube basically spread the videos around to hopefully everybody that plays the game. So hopefully everybody starts to learn these tips. And with that said, let's get started. Alright, so we're starting off with precise pace location. And what I mean by that is where your cursor actually is when you blueprint something. That actually matters. So if you're just using, just say a normal ship that's only one grid, then this doesn't really matter because there's no subgrids to kind of mess up the angles, and you can just copy paste that ship, put it against something that's stuck into the voxel, and it will orientate itself with the ground and gravity. But if you've got a ship like this, say it's got some subgrid wings because you wanted a nice angle because you're a fun engineer, then where you actually copy it is going to matter. So if I blueprinted this thing on the wing right here instead of on the body, or if I blueprinted it accidentally on one of these legs here, then when I put it in the world, it does this kind of funky stuff where it's actually, I have to do all this manipulation to try and get it to paste in right. Whereas I could just copy it somewhere on the body, and then I can use this same trick with the block to orientate it to the ground again. So if you've got something with angled wings, you definitely want to copy it from the body. And if you've got some kind of a walker that has feet, something like this, then make sure when you blueprint this thing, you're blueprinting from the foot. Otherwise, once again, when you paste it in, it will paste in like this. But you can see with this guy, since I've copied it from the foot, then that's the part that it actually aligns to when you put it on a block, and it pastes in a lot nicer. So just something to keep in mind. Next over here is just a little tip about moving. If you've got a platform that uses like a stack of pistons in order to move, normally you'd have all the pistons at the same velocity and will kind of move like this. You get to the end here, and it's just this harsh, rapid stop, which, I mean, it doesn't really do anything to the engineer, but aesthetically, not super great to look at. So really super easy way to mitigate that is to just go into one of the velocities on the pistons and just make it slightly less than all the others. So these ones are at 2. I'll change it to 1.6. And now if we go back, this will cause a slowdown right at the end, which is a lot nicer, and that's because all the rest of the pistons have hit their full displacement because they move faster, and then at the end, only that piston that's going 1.6 is moving. So essentially, since I've used 4 different pistons for this, the speed is cut by 4. And then if you wanted to eliminate even more of the jerkiness, you could go back in. So this piston was 1.6. Let's say I do this one at 1.7, and then this one at 1.8, 1.9. So then we have a nice slow down kind of cascade just to make it even more smooth. So just going back one more time, and just a little bit, add just that little bit of extra to something you make so it just looks more realistic. And this one is having to deal with painting angled lines. So normally, if you want to make some kind of a caution stripe, then this is what most people will end up with. It kind of does the job, but you can really make something like this look better, and we'll just mock that up real quick. So instead of just using flat blocks, we will use our angled half blocks here, and we'll just put it in a pattern like this. It's always fun when the orientation changes on you when you're halfway through. So now we've got those guys there, and then we can use some glass to fill in the holes. I'll make them black on the edges just to help with the effect, and we want to make sure that the tinted side is down, so this part, and then we go and fill it in again. And so right up close, it does look just very slightly odd, but it doesn't take long backing away for it to really get into that effect of the kind of the angled lines, and almost always it's a much better look than just going with those flat, and super easy to do, as you just saw. And so just taking this a little bit further, instead of just doing caution stripes, let's just say that you wanted just to angle out this line. So say you wanted a white triangle right here, and normally this is the best thing that you can do. We can do the same method, so I'll delete these and switch them for angled blocks. And then on this side, I will also switch those for angled blocks. So that's definitely a nicer look. We do have kind of a gap right there. I can fill it in. I probably don't want to use the dark side here, so I'll just fill it in with basically the light side of the windows, just to avoid a tripping hazard there. And yeah, I guess that looks okay, but there is another trick even. And this one doesn't even require you to change the blocks. We're just using the tint of the window in order to change the color of the block behind it. So we'll put this one down on the corner here, and since the white is getting tinted now, it actually looks like it's gray. And then on the other side, so we can avoid these, these sharp lines here, we'll go to the light side of the window, fill that in on this side, and now we have a much nicer looking diagonal line, just placing the windows without replacing the blocks. And this one is still slightly darker, so if I were creating something like this, I would probably just change the rest of all of these, this gray, just make it slightly darker to match. This trick is only going to work if you have basically colors that are the same, like, I guess, like darkness away from each other as the window tint causes it to be, if that makes sense. Like the white through the darkness of the tint turns gray. So this will work from white to gray, or from a gray to a black color, that kind of thing. And it should work in really any color you want. And just an example of using angled lines with different colors here. Even with the gap, it still has a good look to it. And then also you can see those caution stripes being done in the front again. And just to highlight the use of windows one more time, just looking right here at the face of this guy, even just sticking on a dark window, your eye is just drawn to this shape instead of what would be something that looks like this. Definitely not as nice. And even though the window isn't the same color, it definitely looks better having it there, just to get your eye to kind of tricked into thinking that this is a sloped orange line right here. Next thing we are looking at is how to attach hinges or rotors, basically with like a magnetic effect. So if you've made something real fun and you've split up two parts of a hinge or a rotor, and then you want to you've got some kind of a mechanism and you need to bring them back together. The easiest way to do this, and the most reliable, is you take the bottom part. So I'm just going to set it up in a timer right here. You would take the bottom part, so say this rotor, and one timer tells the rotor to attach, and then it tells that same timer to trigger itself. So that rotor is trying to attach now 60 times every single second. And what this does is, the minute, or the instant that this rotor head is anywhere near the vicinity of this rotor, it sucks it in, locks it on, and it looks like a magnet. And you can do this with a hinge the same way. And then for the other timer, if you need to release it again, the way that you would set that up is you would tell the first timer that was triggering itself, you want to get that one to stop, and then the rotor you would want to detach. So we'll just look at an example of this guy, once again on the terrace. So kind of funny thing about Space Engineers physics is it doesn't do the same thing each time. There's kind of anomalies that happen, which makes things not reliable. And I was having difficulty getting these missiles to attach to this part right here until I set it up like this. And you can see that magnetic effect going on right there. Originally, I was just trying to put the arms in place, and then once they stopped wiggling, I would try and attach. But almost, I guess would be like 25% of the time, it wasn't close enough. So that was a way to completely solve the issue. One more kind of application for this. I got this kind of funky omnidirectional elevator, and the way that this one is working is the same kind of principle. So this red rotor right here is just trying to attach itself until it locks on to this next rotor head in the line, and then it just flip-flops with the other rotor on the other side, and they will keep doing that all the way around the rectangle right here. So this is kind of fun because as long as I set up the rotor heads at the same distance as these rotors are apart, then it'll have something to lock onto, and it will just keep going. And then the way that this platform is set up to always be aligned with gravity. So right off the bat, we've got an overridden gyro sitting on it, and that's going to resist any kind of rolling motion. And then to eliminate any kind of drift over time, I also have a space ball, which is set to have a lot of mass, and it's on a subgrid. So that is going to act like kind of a pendulum effect, and it's going to basically keep it aligned with the gravity force at all times. And one more fun application with this, I just mocked up this kind of cargo ship, I guess. And the idea here is I've got basically like a wheel or like a spool of hinges, and I can lower it by doing this. It does have one rotor on the very bottom there, and then that rotor is rigged up like that thing I set up before, where I can have it constantly trying to attach to something. So I'll fly over here. I've got my little cargo container, and on the top of the cargo container is just a bunch, here I'll just get out, it's just got a bunch of rotor heads so that I could attach my little cargo hook string thing to any one of these. The first one it comes in contact with, it's going to lock on. So we'll just get that set up right here. I'll turn on my 3 timer so that it's trying to attach, and then bringing this guy down, we'll just hook it up to one of them. So there it goes, locked on, and now we can reverse, reel it up, It probably would have been better to hook on to one in the middle so that it kind of had a better center of gravity. But as it stands, we can still go and fly around with this guy. And we just say that we want to fly over to this pad right here and drop it off. So we'll reverse the spool, send it back down. It's kind of like a flying cargo crane. And then we can hit 4 and detach ourselves. And then bring our spool back up. Kind of like that. So I fully realize that this is not exactly practical, but what it is it's fun, and it's a lot more challenging, I guess, than just going over and sticking something with the landing gear and putting it down, because it just doesn't take much brain power to do that, and I play this game for fun, so I'm going to keep making stuff like that. So this last thing that we're looking at is going to be how to stop a rotor in more than just 2 places. And this is going to use a mechanical solution instead of needing to write a script to tell it to stop in more than 2. So normally with a rotor, you go in and you have a lower limit and you have an upper limit. And so if you wanted it to, say, move between those, you're really just limited to 2 spots. But if you set up something like this, where we're using the same kind of catch and release as the previous one, then it will just move to the next slot and then catch itself. And we can have 4 slots in this example. You press the button again, it moves to the next slot. And so what I was thinking, you don't have to use a rotor. You could use a hinge. You could use merge blocks. You could use connectors. Or you could even use something that doesn't even attach itself. It just blocks this from spinning, which I'll get to. But some ideas I had with this kind of rotating thing was, say you've got a base and you want to have like a compact cryotube room for you and your buddies. You could have each of your cryotubes on this, and then they'd be in some kind of, doorway right here. And let's just say that, you have a little sign that says which one is yours, and then when you want to go to your cryotube, you just hit the button until it spins around, and you hop right in. So that one was kind of interesting. Batteries too. What I was thinking with the battery is, say you had a system in your base where you had batteries that you could disconnect off of this apparatus, and they'll be fully charged. So you could drive your rover up, you could basically take off a great brand new battery, put it on your rover, you could go to the next slot and say put on your old used battery onto there so that it starts recharging. But that saves any kind of time that you have to sit at your base with trying to charge your batteries up. So you can just take a fresh one every time, and this is a fun kind of system to let you do that. You could also build some kind of elaborate rotating door out of that. Could be fun. And then getting really complicated, some kind of a weapon reloading system. So if you've got, say, like a big old missile launcher on this side over here, and then if you wanted to reload, you can have 4, 6, 8 missiles stocked up on one of these things. And this would probably be done by a timer, but every time you wanted to reload, it would move to the next missile. Some kind of arm would come over, grab it, put it on the launcher, and send it off. And you could just keep doing that. So those are just a couple ideas I came up with as I was putting the little demo together. This one right here I ripped out of just another world I was doing. So this one actually has 6 slots, and this is what I was talking about by this isn't even an attach function. This is literally just a merge block that, or not a merge block, a blast door that gets in the way of the rotor spinning. And I have this automated so that it keeps going around, but I could stop this at any one of these 6 points. I just have to move that little arm in the way. And in order to do this, you have to set the rotor torque to a kind of a smaller velocity so that it has a nice smooth acceleration right here, and it doesn't, I guess it doesn't bump and jerk around a lot. But I was really happy with how this one turned out. One thing you want to keep in mind though is to use blast doors here, because you can't, or you'll never be able to merge a block onto this side of the blast door. So say you were pasting this and they were together, kind of like they are now, you wouldn't want them to fuse together upon pasting. So if you use a blast door, that's never going to be a problem. And then right at the end here, one more place I use this, but firstly, I know how much you guys liked the suicide sign, and I just wanted to show off another one from this great ball contraption that I made earlier. So this whole thing is holding on this conveyor belt, because the belt is not actually attached to anything, it just sits on these wheels. So if you come over here and press the button, that guy flies off to the, actually not very high, and just destroys himself. But now our conveyor belt is working. And then just so I can demonstrate with that guy, if you remember the Gatling and the conveyor tube trick, I was also using that one here just to create kind of an unlimited supply of balls for this course right here. But if I just copy, say the red one, and bring them over here, I'll just get a few of these going for this demo. So we have this guy spinning around, exactly the same, a little bit more compact than how that one was down there, but once again with the blast doors here, because this one is actually lined up, and that avoids it, or that avoids the fusing when you're pasting it. And so we have our little ball elevator that's bringing these guys up to the top. And I knew that I needed 4 of these going around in order to keep up with how fast these balls go up the elevator. So just the whole system, I really like the mechanical aspect and not needing a script to do it. I think it's a little drop there. I just think it's more fun to watch in the end. That's all for this video, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you on the next one.